I don't know whether you're feeling it. Maybe you are, maybe you aren't, but I certainly have noticed an increase in intensity at the moment. And I look around and I look through the, on the internet, and I go out into the town, which is not a particularly intense town here. But I see that people are kind of losing it on a certain level, unable to deal with the intense influx of energy on so many different levels. Because things are changing, and there's in many ways, maybe there's an evolution taking place, but there's certainly a shaking up of energy. We're not separate from the field in the same way that the goldfish is not separate from the bowl it swims in. We're intricately connected to the environment in which we live, and that environment means, on many different levels, both the cultural level, the collective level of energy, and also let's call it the galactic level. You could call it the astrological level. You could, call it really the field of energy from the closest to the most vast. And this is influencing us all the time. The movement or the change in frequency of the earth, this is influencing us all the time. We tend to think of ourselves as just these isolated, separate islands of individuation, but actually that's not the truth of the matter. Some of the assumptions that we make about ourselves are illusory or erroneous. We're much more porous than we think. We imagine that we end, that our edge is where the boundary of self, this physical self, is. But if we go down onto deeper and deeper levels and look into the atomic and subatomic structures, we find that actually on the energetic level, let's say, we don't end there at all. We sort of, we dissolve into the totality. And our energy doesn't stop here. Our energy dissolves into the totality. But if it dissolves into the totality, then we're also receiving from the totality. So this sort of two-way thing, this mutual relationship that goes on. So we're highly influenced by what is happening on the invisible levels in our world or in the universal world. And it would seem that we're going through changes. It would seem that if you listen to what other people say, experts, or that we're going through galactic evolutionary changes. And certainly if you look at the what's happening on the worldly levels, there's an intensity, there's a rising to the surface of the darkness, the denied, the lie, the manipulation, the corruption. It's all sort of potentially coming to the surface, which is no bad thing. But the same happens in the collective as happens on the individual level. And what that is that as a kind of bifurcation point happens. So there's a doorway, and one doorway can lead to the destruction, and one doorway can lead to healing. That happens on the personal level. It's called a healing crisis, a transformational moment, a bifurcation point, breakthrough moment where breakdown could happen and breakthrough could happen. Well, this is not just isolated to us on the individual level. This is a collective experience as well. And I think to a certain extent we're seeing that intensity, because usually the healing crisis, the cathartic moment, the breakthrough or breakdown moment, usually involves a certain intensity, a build-up of energy that comes because to break through, one requires energy. It has to have energy. It's not just a sort of like this, it's not a wet blanket. It's a build-up of energy that can break through a certain paradigm, whether it's the paradigm of illness that we've held on to, or the paradigm of suppression we've held on to as individuals. But then, of course, then this looks, if you transpose that onto the collective, well, then the possibility of the breakthrough, breakdown experience happens, and it's very volatile, and there's a lot of energy goes on, and obviously this could be, pretty scary and very intense. And when people don't know what's kind of going on, or they're lost in the matrix of their own stories, or the volatility of their emotions, and they haven't really looked inside themselves or developed much self-awareness, which unfortunately in many ways is most of the people, let's face it, well, then it can that movement of intense energy can actually create a few problems, i.e. mental breakdowns or explosive moments, triggered moments increase, and that can be very dangerous. It can be very dangerous for the individual, but it can be very dangerous in the society. So you see this and feel this kind of volatility, the volatility is not just on the political stage, let's say, in America or in Europe, or, the whole of the Eastern European, Ukraine, Russia kind of issues that are going, all of the arguments that are going on in Europe. But of course the intensity, if you live in America, of this, change, this quite radical movement that's come in with Trump and Musk in the last few months, that is sort of upending something, and people have very mixed reactions to that, depending on what their allegiance is, and because there is so much deception and corruption and manipulation of the human experience, particularly if people are at that, tend more to believe what they read, believe what they see, believe what they're told, and they watched a bit too much television, then it can create this kind of volatility. And there is a volatility in society. There is a volatility of a sense of, is it breaking down? But then, one has to say, well, is it breaking through? Evolution doesn't happen on a certain level without that kind of volatility, without that kind of breakthrough moment. But the reason that I'm making this video is just to acknowledge the intensity, and to acknowledge the intensity that you might be feeling, because it comes up in fear, it comes up in reactiveness, it comes up in anxiety, it comes up in, oh God, it comes up in a shake-up of things that are going on. It can be very destabilizing. And so I make this video to say, hold still. Don't give your allegiance to the drama. Don't give yourself to that dramaticness. Take a step back, always. Take a step back. Be the calm at the center of the storm. Root yourself in something greater than the comings and goings of the temporary. Yeah, be in the world but not of the world. Literally, be in the world but not of the world. You take place in the world, you do your thing, but actually your roots are in the eternal. And somehow that allows you to step back when things are feeling and looking intense, and to kind of, do a Neo in the Matrix, to unplug whenever you can. Not just unplug from the TV or the device or anything, but unplug your mind from the drama. Unplug your emotionality from the heat of the drama, and just come back. Yeah, kind of reconfigure, a constant reconfiguration. back to the equanimity of being, back to the center of the chest. Just this. Come back to presence. There's nobody who hasn't got that capacity. You might lose it again pretty quickly, but then you come back again. Yeah, and you do this whenever is necessary. Use the center of the chest here, like this. Here. Lose it, I'm coming back here. The middle of the drama in the store or somewhere like that, where you can feel it's all destable, come back here. That we have that capacity. And that makes the experience as the waves of energy, the waves of whatever it is, galactic, astrological, societal, collective, emotional, energies that are swirling around. It makes them easier to deal with, the same as the personal energies. It's the same thing. It's intense. It's very intense. And it may stay intense for a while. But you don't have to get lost in that intensity. Nobody does.